Welcome to the MMHP and the 989, channeling all styles and eras of Michigan music history.
Hello, Michigan music lovers. This is Scott Baker. I want to welcome you to the Michigan Music History Podcast. I am flanked by Michigan music royalty. To the left, Dr. J. To the right, Sir Fred. We cut from just around the block of the Michigan Rock Legends Hall of Fame in Bay City, Michigan, here at Studio 163 in Essexville. And now it's time to grab a favorite beverage, hit the cruise, and take a trip back with us through Michigan's rich music history.
This podcast is sponsored by our friends at Electric Kitch, located at 2106 Kosciuszko Avenue in Bay City, Michigan. And now, here's your host, Scott Baker.
All right, we're back here, Studio 163. We are in Essexville, Michigan, bringing you the MMHP and the 989. Second season, rolling around here, getting a little fall weather in the vibe. And we got a very special guest, Mr. Scott Causley in the house, drummer for the Burdons. People know that name all over the state. People have the vinyl in their collection. People wonder, where's this guy now? We've heard of this guy. Oh, he's at Scotty's Sandbar. That's where he's hanging out.
I'm right here.
But tonight he's hanging here with us.
And let's not forget that the Burdons are inductees to the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame. Also,
All right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, indeed.
Dr. J is back in the house. How you doing, Dr. J, this week?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. Sir Fred?
I'm doing real good.
All right. We got our buddy Mike Beatty in here filming for the second week. He's going to be hanging with us this season for some special extracurricular MMHP activity. He's our video man. Yes, and hosting with the... When you hear the extra guy off mic asking the great questions, that'll be Mike sitting there. How's it going, Scott Causley?
Good. How you doing?
Oh,
Scott Baker?
I'm actually having a good week. It's been crazy at work, but you know what? It's one of those weeks where it feels good outside. The vibe's nice. Things are falling into place where they should be, and music's happening. A lot of gigs coming up here, so...
Good.
How's Scotty Sandbar doing down there?
We're hanging in there.
Yeah?
Yep.
You guys got a lot of music coming through.
Yes, we do.
And you are also the host of half of the Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame material. And
We are hosting Gary.
yeah,
Well,
Gary, Dr. J
there's
stuff.
a big display at Scotty Sandbar, which I believe very firmly is the best music venue in Bay County for sure.
For sure.
And
Got some history.
yeah, it's a great place to have it. And of course, also the home of the Bluesmobile, Scott's band, outstanding group. I just saw them last weekend at the Shot and Shell, and they're playing again this weekend, the J West Band. So a treat to see these guys, I'll tell you. That's a real good double bill right there.
Oh, the J West is wild.
Yeah,
They
I
are
mean,
good.
yeah. Well, you guys are no slouches either.
I've known those guys for quite a few
Yeah.
years, and they got it down good.
And both bands are playing different things
Completely
too.
different.
Yeah, you got
Apples
the
and
classic.
oranges.
Yeah, you got the classic rock with the J West Band and the Bluesmobile, as the name implies. Blues and rhythm and blues primarily.
Pretty much,
Great
yeah.
lead singer, Lady Love. I mean, she can crank it out. So yeah, outstanding.
Wonderful. Well, Scott, we want to ask you a lot of questions. I know you bring the Essexville lineage to the Michigan scene. You were one of the first ones outside of the Bay City, Saginaw, Tri-City thing, like Question Mark or, anything that have come through our way over the years. Madonna. Madonna was a little after you, but Essexville. Tell us about the Burdons trip and how it began and where it all started for you.
Well, the Burdons, 1980 is the earliest recording I have on a cassette. They had another guy named Greg Bullett playing drums, and he passed away. So they put an ad in the Bay City Times. And I was in between bands, so I just thought I would answer it. So they picked up the phone, and they said, well, come on right over here on Heaven Ridge, which is straight around the corner from here, not too far down the road a little ways. And I took the drums over there and set up in the basement, and that was it. There was actually me, Jim Davenport, Paul Schultz, and Scott Rattel was the original lead guitar player in the band.
Okay.
But he left after we did a couple of videos at the Skill Center back in them days, and it just wasn't his type of thing because we were playing our own music. You know, we didn't do a lot of cover songs back then. We were writing. And so he kind of left, and after about a year of being three-piece, Jim Davenport's brother Dave, who was living out in San Diego, was playing with a band called Claude Coma and the IVs, punk rock band. And he decided that he was going to move back to Bay City, so we took him on as a keyboard player. And at that point in time, that's when it all started rolling along pretty good.
Now, in 1980, the cassette you have,
Yeah.
Obviously when you joined the band, were you still a Garber at that point, or is it just graduated?
No, I didn't graduate from Garber. I graduated from Bay City Central.
Okay.
I grew up in Essexville.
The Davenports went to Garber, though.
Yeah, so did Paul Schultz.
And Paul, okay.
Yeah. I grew up in Essexville until I was 5 years old.
Were you guys in...
Or actually 6 years old because I had kindergarten at Bush School.
Okay.
And then first grade I started out at the old Woodside School.
Now you moved to Atlantic.
Yeah, right just across the border.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
So I
it's
kept hanging around with
really a
those guys.
stone's throw from the Essex.
Around the block there.
Well, it was called the old Borderline Cafe, right?
Yeah.
At that point,
Yep.
you know, the little restaurant right on the corner.
I used to have an
Woodside
apartment
and
at the store right
Border-
across the street, upstairs there. The High's Minute Market.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was. Essexville was a lot different back in those days.
Oh, yeah.
They kind of had kind of a vibrant
There was
thing
really,
going on.
in that period of time, the only bands that were really around in Essexville, there was an old country band that used to play at the Keg Inn. I can't remember what their name was there. Charlie Dishaw was in the band. And then there was the Burdons, and then there was the KMJ band.
Yeah, right.
Who those guys were, they were awesome. They were all good friends. We all grew up together, and Mako was the drummer. Steve McDonald was the bass player, and they went through numerous guitar players over the years. But they started out the other way around. A lot of people don't know that, but Steve McDonald was the original drummer when they were kids. Mm-hmm. Mark Deering was the bass player. Was the guitar player.
Right.
They really didn't have a bass player. But they turned it around, and they used to put little concerts on in their parents' basement. I remember going to the first one. That was the first time I ever seen a homemade bubble machine with a drumstick, putting huge amounts of bubbles off in the room with a strobe light.
Wow.
And Mako's arms going in the air, beating on the drums.
Pretty creative.
Oh yeah, those guys were always really
Now,
creative.
what year would have that been? Because I hung out there in
That would have been in the early
75.
70s.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was in
probably
Michael's
71,
basement in
72.
the, 74, 75.
Yeah,
76.
74 and 73 I worked at Tri-City Bakery
Okay.
on Woodside there.
So in 1980, you guys were all graduated by then. It wasn't like a high school band.
No, it wasn't a high school band.
Okay,
No,
I wondered about that. I never knew that.
No. Paul and Jim Davenport played together in bands all through high school.
I remember Jim telling me
with
that.
different people and different musicians and stuff like that, you know.
Okay.
So
That's where you said Mark Bradford was part of that original.
Yep.
Right.
He said he went to
Yep.
kindergarten with one of the Davenports, Dave, I think.
he was our chief photographer
Yep.
for quite a while too.
And
Mark Bradford was.
explosive supplier for the KMJ band.
Yep.
Flash powder from the...
Yes, I remember catching the ceiling on fire at the Keg Inn with the flash pots.
Wow.
They got the fire extinguishers out, and they were going right to town. They put it out, and all the tiles was dripping, hanging, and they just kept playing.
And then Steve McDonald joins the Burdons
Yeah.
later on, right?
Yeah.
And actually played quite a few years with you guys.
He played for, I think, 9 years.
Yeah.
Jim Davenport left the band for a short period of time, and we took on Steve McDonald. That was when we were touring quite a bit, too. And Steve fit in really well. He was a good fit. And then when Jim's brother Dave, the keyboard player, decided to go to college and get an education, he left the band, and we put Jim back in on acoustic guitar, on rhythm guitar.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I was
one of the incarnations of the...
I was able to give Steve his induction certificate for the Burdons, and it was not long after that he was sadly killed in that car accident.
That was a very tragic situation right there. His daughter and his granddaughters were with him. So that's, they got T-boned by somebody over in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
Do you remember the article in the Bay City Times? By my friends Tom Henry and Wayne Hearn?
Yep.
Who rocks best in the Tri-Cities?
Yeah.
March 6, 1982.
I think I got that article. I save everything.
Yeah, me too. I was working with the Flies, so that's why I kept it. But
I played in bands with John Krogman.
Oh.
Russ
Okay.
Bucket. Did a Neil Young tribute thing.
Right.
He was a good Neil Young guy.
Oh, yeah.
But they talk, Tom Henry was a big fan of the Burdons here.
He showed up at a lot of gigs.
He lives in Toledo now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was your first big blast of publicity, right? That article?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was, yeah. That was
Always helps.
when we were not. I think that was just before we recorded the album, but we were performing the songs on around because we played the songs off the record for a good year before we recorded it.
They all were original, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We all co-wrote them.
This is self-titled record here,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. That's the one.
So how did you hook up with
We don't look like that no more. Just in case you're wondering.
I see the label was out of Nashville. Big Rock.
Yeah, that was our label. We actually had our own publishing company, our own record label.
Oh.
IRS Records out in San Diego promoted us too.
I remember hearing that because there was a connection with you guys, R.E.M., the Go-Go's,
Right.
Police.
Government Records, IRS Records, were a California label that picked up our label
Yeah.
and promoted us out there.
Amazing.
Although we never went out there and played. I have no idea why.
I remember asking you after a show one night we were talking, and I remember when I was a kid, there was something big about when you guys were on tour and the R.E.M. connection because they were so big back when I was in high school, and that whole IRS
We crossed
music.
paths with a lot of those people.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Iggy Pop was promoted by Government Records at one time too.
Wow.
Oh, you guys were a good example of the do-it-yourself movement.
Yeah, we were a garage band.
Yeah, that came out of that whole punk scene,
Yep.
new wave scene, and our area is representative of that particular style. And that album still stands up today.
I mean, it's funny how we went to Nashville to record that record in the RCA building down on Music Row. Because Jack Connors, the guy who ran Sound First, had gotten a job down there as an engineer. And he dragged us down there. And it was right in the middle of the heart of country and western music. Mm-hmm. I mean, we got stared at a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
It just didn't
Nashville.
really fit in,
Yeah, Nashville has changed quite a bit, but right back in the early '80s, right, it would have been pretty strictly
We
country.
had to play at Ellison Square to get into the scene before anybody would hire us. Everybody had to go through Ellison Square.
Wow.
If you were from Texas, if you were from New York, any band that went to play in Nashville in the clubs had to play at Ellison Square and get their approval.
What exactly was that? Is that a club
It's a club. If you look at Ken Burns' country music documentary, Ellison Square is a big part of that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw that, but I guess I wasn't putting that together. Didn't know you guys had went through that.
Yeah, we had played at Ellison Square. Yep. 12th and Porter, that was another one. The only band we ran into that was really punk rock down there was a local band in Nashville that were all dressed up like Nazis. They had German uniforms on when they played and sang.
Whoa, that is very edgy.
Kind of like the G.G. Allen thing a little. If you know what G.G. Allen
Yeah.
Yes.
How did that gig get booked? Was that through your record label at the time?
No, when we got down there, we had gotten a hold of a company called Let Us Entertain You. And they knew we were there for 2 months to do the record. And they decided they were going to get us some gigs. So we had money.
Oh,
They were
excellent.
very nice.
You lined that up perfectly because you didn't have a record at that point.
I do think, if my memory serves me correct, that was owned by Al Jolson Jr.
Oh. Wow.
He only had one line. It was not Al Jolson Sr., Al Jolson Jr.
Okay.
And I still got the bullshit deflector. It goes over your ear.
That's awesome. Wow.
It goes over your ear, between your ear and the telephone.
Incredible. I wonder how all this broke down. So you guys recorded in Nashville soon after you did that gig, or you just stayed down there, or did you guys haul home and work?
Well, actually, we started the recording process before we played at Ellison Square in 12th and Porter. And we actually played at Vanderbilt University, too. They got us some decent jobs down there. They kept us going, so it was a good thing to have money coming in when you're there.
So you guys weren't working at the time. You didn't have to fly back to Essexville to get a week of work in before you took some time off.
I had taken off 2 months from work. I worked at Bay Harbor Marina.
Okay.
And they gave me the time off. So the other two guys, Jim and Paul and Dave, they really didn't have much going on work-wise around town anyways, so.
It's always interesting to ask that because even, like Larry, he was telling us when we did his podcast, hauling home from Detroit every night so he could get his job in during the day to haul back down to cut that Ambition record in that little studio in Detroit.
Yep.
And it's just, how did that get juggled back when, the last big records and the contracts and the local records for us, which turned into something good for our area. How did that all come about? Because everybody's, it's such a blue collar. Everybody's working all the time around here.
Yeah.
It always has been. So interesting. Yeah.
Well, hopefully Larry's fortunes have changed pretty quick.
Yeah. Things are different now.
Things are different now.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Yep.
So while you guys were in Nashville, you guys got to some good gigs then. Tell me a little bit after the record came out. Was it widely distributed, or where did you did you see records at?
Where did you press it?
Yeah,
volunteer record pressing in Nashville. Jerry West was the guy that mastered it, and he did a lot of Alice Cooper stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yep, I still got all his business cards and stuff. We had I think 15,000 copies made.
Okay, and then
we passed out a lot of them, and that got us a lot of work.
Right.
Sending those out.
And then, my favorite part of the Burdons story is your release party.
I can't remember that.
Well,
Gary, do you remember that?
Well, it's part of the.
If you do, you weren't there.
It's part of the lore because Tim Sullivan, the mayor of Bay City, was a surprise guest at the record release party and presented the Burdons with the key to the city.
Fascinating.
Nobody knew that was coming. We did. I had no idea that was coming.
You had one up on Madonna a little early on then, because he was the one that.
Well, see, but the stories got mixed over the years because this happened in 1984.
With the Burdons.
With the Burdons, and the whole Madonna thing started in 1985. And this was after Sullivan had presented the Burdons with their key. He got the apparently stars in his eyes. Now, he's got national recording artists like Madonna that could come to Bay City and perform. And he was running for mayor. So Sullivan announced this to the press before actually contacting Madonna and getting any kind of assurances. And talk about bad timing. No sooner had he put this in the paper and it was headlines that Penthouse magazine announced that they had purchased nude photos as well as Playboy magazine of Madonna that she had posed for 6 years earlier, before she was a star, obviously, and needed the money. This scuttled Sullivan's plans big time. And
it's a good thing they didn't find your Playgirl shot, Scott. I'll tell you that right now.
But see,
I got him.
Saved all those too.
Well, this where Sullivan went wrong, though. I mean, really, he should have. Everybody was taking shots at Madonna. Everyone.
Yeah.
And he had an opportunity here to stand up for a local girl. All right, so she had posed for nude photos. I mean, she had posed nude for art classes throughout college when she was going to University of Michigan. Yeah. But, that had nothing to do with her success as a recording artist. And so he made this big deal about, turning, she wasn't worthy of the key and all this kind of baloney. And, this was the start of the Madonna situation in Bay City.
Kicked open the rumor mill.
It did, and then it was made worse a couple years later when she appeared on the Today Show and was talking about where she was from. And, and again, you have to remember, Madonna, the time that she spent in Bay City, it was when she was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
From the time she was born till maybe about 13 years old, this is when she was in Bay City. And at that time, Bay City had a large petroleum plant off Patterson Road.
Yes, it did.
Dow Chemical was in the gasoline business, Bay
Monitor
gasoline.
sugar.
Well, but the smell that Madonna was talking about came from the petroleum plant.
Yes.
And, as she referred to it, lightheartedly as a smelly little town. Maybe not the best terms to use.
Choice of words.
But the Bay City Times just really did a number on her. They took that out of context. And
They didn't let her finish what she said at the end of that.
Actually, it was all Jane Pauley, who did the interview, just said, "Are you disparaging Bay City?" And she said, "No, I have great affection for Bay City."
Yep. That's
She said it was just like she didn't know what it was. She was a kid. I called it a chemical dump. Well, it wasn't really, although they were dumping a lot of chemicals in the Saginaw River and in Saginaw Bay. But anyways, the Bay City Times took it out of context and put it on the front page, along with some other stuff about her being angry about not getting the key from Sullivan. And it was totally false.
Yes, it was. And the Bay City Times has been known to do that.
Well,
Quite a
yeah.
bit.
I mean, talk
Quite a
about fake news.
Yeah.
Because now, with the miracle of YouTube, you can go back and see the entire interview with Madonna and Jane Pauley.
all out
And
there.
you pull up that editorial that the Bay City Times printed, and I mean, they violated every journalistic principle under the sun.
That's just
Yeah.
like the envelope I donated to the Historical Society over the Winona Hotel fire. I found that envelope pulling marble off the wall that had a letter from the bellhops when the place was built. Mm-hmm. And I donated that to the Bay County Historical Society. The Bay City Times put an article out about that and completely made up their own story where it came from.
Wow, okay.
And it came from me.
And no credit for Scott Causley in this.
Well, I didn't really care about getting credit for it, but they made up their own story.
Yeah, well,
How they got it.
but credit is should be given where credit is due.
Yeah.
That's
At least
the
they
whole
could have
point.
said where it came from behind a piece of marble.
Right, exactly. Well, anyways, I don't want to belabor this thing, but it's probably cost Bay City over the years. I mean, literally millions of dollars because they've never taken advantage of this situation with Madonna. But this is going to come out in that film, and I don't know if you know, Scott, that it's going to open the Hell's Half Mile Film Festival.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and the Burdons are on there. At least Scott and
Me and Jim, we did a song on that.
Yeah, and
and it's called
Smelly Little Town.
And you're in that, Gary.
I'm in that as well, right? And I think, didn't they use a little sequence that I shot of you guys from Garber High School?
Yeah, we're proud of that smell.
That's right. Well, I grew up pretty close to that. I remember that smell.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
yeah.
I see her grandmother's house is for sale if anybody's interested.
Yeah, I used to,
Really?
I used to
Again,
live
eh?
2 houses from it.
That should have been, well, in
Smith
fact, it should be purchased by Bay City and made into some kind of museum.
Yeah.
It would only
Well,
make
we
sense.
put the sign up for the Mysterians.
I know it.
Why not the same thing now?
Certainly. Yeah.
Actually, that's Gary mentioned that last week when we were having a podcast, and he said that one's ready for a marker in front of it for sure.
Should have one.
well, definitely. Yes.
Marker, yeah. Yep.
So, anyways.
Yeah, amazing. So the Burdons in Nashville, you guys printed the records. The tour followed.
Once we sent the records out, we sent a lot of them out ourselves, and we gave a big pile of them to Bob Farmer from Musicians of Michigan, Mom, and he also had the Rose Robert Agency, and he sent us all over the place. He got
So
us
that's
all.
who you used. Okay, I know that name. I mean, they still were active about 10 years ago. I don't know. I got to hit up
He's
my.
still up in Elk Rapids, Michigan.
Excellent.
I
Okay.
think he does sound shows up there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's got to be getting up in age though now.
I just remember a Rose Roberts thing coming in, looking for artists and stuff, maybe about 10 years ago.
Fred Buchanan booked us a couple of gigs too, from the Buchanan agency out of Flint.
Okay. So you utilized Michigan booking agencies
yeah.
to go around the country?
Yeah,
Or wherever you guys went. You guys mainly did a Midwest to South.
it was mainly down south and back.
Yeah, South and back. Yeah, you didn't make it out west, right?
We never went out west. No.
Okay.
Did you get much local radio play, Scott? I know you guys run college radio.
We did get some college play around the country actually, and local, not on the top 40 stations too much. No. Nope.
Yeah, it's too bad, the way radio developed.
We sold a lot of records around here.
Yeah, well, of course, you guys are a big local attraction.
Lucky's Record Shop and
Right.
Harry's Amusement.
Mm-hmm.
He sold probably a good 1,000 records for us.
Yeah, back when
Very
Bay
good
City
back
had
in
a
the
couple record stores.
I think you
Back
guys.
when they used to have records.
Yeah, well, we do have our
Electric
MTV
Hitch.
used to have
our
music,
sponsor,
too.
right?
Yeah, our sponsor, Electric Hitch, they are who we have now. Yes.
Yes,
I
and
think you brought some records to my store.
Yep.
So did you find your record in the stores on your tours, or did you guys go looking, or
Never
bothered with
We
it?
never really went to record stores.
You just sold your records at the shows?
We pretty much just would go do the gig, stay at the hotel, and go to the next gig.
Did you? Just kept on keeping on kind of
Sometimes we
thing?
were playing 4 or 5 nights a week
Yeah. Dang.
back in them days.
Did you guys, I think we talked about this too. You guys crossed with the Romantics for some
Yeah, we
shows?
opened up for them twice.
Yeah. That had to be cool.
Yeah.
They were on a hot slot, Detroit. You guys were hot coming out of
We
here.
did Humble Pie at the Golden Globe Ballroom, that was a trippy show.
Steve Marriott,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Savoy Brown.
Sally Brown.
That's at State Theater in Bay City.
Where did the romantic shows, where were they at?
We did one of them at the Golden Globe Ballroom, I think, and then there was one, I think, at the in Pinconning.
Oh wow! So they were on their way up here, even though
Yeah.
they were just nationally skyrocketing at the time.
Yeah.
Wow! I didn't realize
we're real nice guys to talk to and stuff.
That's awesome.
They probably made a lot of money in the commercials. Their songs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, when you get a couple of hits like that, you can make some bucks off them. You sell them to a diaper company.
well, I'm trying
What
to
I
think.
love about you.
Yeah, that was a beer commercial, wasn't it?
Could have been.
Yeah,
it seemed
Miller,
like it was
Bud
a
Light or something.
couple beer.
Oh yeah, boy, that's big money if you could get on a beer commercial like that.
Get a lot of free beer.
Yeah, right. Not to mention exposure.
Yeah. Wow. So your tour down south, was that with any other national acts? I know you said you swapped some gigs with R.E.M. and all them, but anybody else?
We pretty much were just opening up for doing opening acts.
Yeah. Was there anybody that blew you guys' mind? Like, oh my gosh, this is a great band. You would never forget that show.
I would say probably the Romantics.
Romantics? Oh, okay.
They were one of them. Yeah, they were pretty cool to hang out with and stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, that's another Michigan band there. So, hey,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did the Polish Muslims.
Polish Muslims.
That was St. Andrews Hall. We used to play St. Andrews Hall in Detroit quite a bit.
Oh,
Oh, God, those guys were a trip. There was like 15, 16 guys in the band, never more than 4 or 5 of them on the stage at once.
really?
They were changing members in the middle of the song.
Really?
They just won the Detroit Music Awards 2 years ago.
Really?
They've been around longer than the Burdons.
Boy.
They're antiques.
St. Andrews is still operating, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think they call it the Shelter now.
All right. Yeah, I haven't been there in a long
The shelter's
time.
in the basement of
It's in
St.
the
Andrews.
basement. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know what's going on down there. The COVID's killed a lot of stuff.
Oh, sure.
It's just a terrible thing to have that happen like that.
So coming off the tour, making that record, what was your guys' next move? Did you guys pre-plan, or did you guys know what's going
We
on?
pretty much did. I wanted to do another record and start the whole process over again, but those guys just wanted to keep playing and making the money.
Well, Jim was.
You got to feed the cow grass to get milk.
True.
When I interviewed Jim, he talked about doing, at least you started an album with Henry Weck who was the drummer of Brownsville Station. He had
Schoolhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's where we did a lot of recording.
Yeah,
Our label.
Henry's a good guy. You know, what we did was we had a sponsor for that record, which was Captain Jake's Landing.
Right.
On the Causley River, Aaron Ellick. But he picked the songs. And they were mostly cover songs. Well, they were all cover songs. And he got mad because we stuck one original in. So that kind of put bad blood out there between everybody. And but it was actually pretty nice to hang out with Henry Weck, though. I mean, you know, he'd let me use his drums and everything, and you know, me and him latched on pretty good as buddies for quite a while there.
Yeah, I couldn't really understand Ellick's thinking there.
He wanted to control. He wanted to have the control.
Okay, yeah, it just didn't make sense.
They actually
you know,
did
that you guys were making, you know, original music.
It's an obvious thing right there. What was on that last record? All original songs. What made them huge? All original songs. This song this album I want you guys to do all covers. It's like,
well, he had to do a Freddie Boom Boom Cannon, you know, baby, come on, let me.
And that's his era.
It was all his era stuff.
And you're like, you got to be shitting me.
We did do a TV commercial for Herder Music.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, at TV5 in the studios there. I'll never forget it because I grabbed a podium with magnetic clouds and suns on it for the weather map and flung it across the room, and it stuck. I had a sun stick right in the middle of a thunderstorm on the map, and Chuck Waters come screaming at me out of the booth.
So you either had Jim Payton or Chuck Waters back then.
Chuck Waters.
Yeah.
Leave my stuff alone.
But then he realized after a minute that he knew me from Bay Harbor when they used to shoot commercials out there. And my aunt worked at TV5, used to sign his paychecks.
Oh, so the circle, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
He was pretty cool. It was a funny event.
You say, hey, Muddy Waters, get up here and
what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? He's yelling at me. They were just getting ready to take a picture of the map, I guess. I don't know. There was nobody standing around.
You caught me. Wow, that's cool. So you guys did a commercial. You guys had all that going on. And the album halted because you guys didn't want to do the cover record
It
thing.
ran out of gas.
So you guys have a copy in the somewhere?
Well, there's
an unreleased record.
There's some songs,
we
right?
have the 24-track tape.
And that would have been the second record.
Yeah.
And it's just sitting there in the archives.
We actually had taken our original 24-track tape to Dick Wagner. Had a machine in his basement. We wanted to remix it.
Mm-hmm.
But that deal fell through somehow. I don't know. Something happened between Dick Wagner and Paul Schultz or something. I don't know. Maybe it was a money thing. I don't know. I remember taking it over there and leaving it with him, and he called up and said, come and get it about a week later, and said, I'm not interested in it. So, because I wanted to completely remix the drums in that.
You know, Wagner would have
know
been.
you said you were on-
recording, I hated the drums in that recording.
I remember you telling me you
They
didn't
were
like
just-
the drums.
Well, they wouldn't let me use mine. I dragged them all the way to Nashville, and I had to use the set that was in the studio, and they insisted on it. And that was the same drum set that all the country bands were using, and they had fiber skin heads on them. The drums just sounded dead. I mean, the snare drum sounded like you were slapping the newspaper.
Yeah.
So that was the second record you're talking about here?
No, that was the
the
original,
first. Okay.
The first one, yeah.
Okay.
And to this day, I still hate the sound of the drums on that.
Gotcha.
Well, that goes back to the early
I'll
days of
never
the
let
Grand
that
Ole
happen
Opry.
again.
You know,
Never let that happen again.
yeah, you don't want any drums out there on stage at the Grand Ole Opry, at least in the early days.
We did get to go through the Ryman Auditorium when it was closed and being renovated to be a museum.
Oh, boy.
We were standing out in front of it looking at it, and this old guy come in with a mop bucket and shit through the front door. You guys want to come in? Hell yes. So we got to walk on the stage, under the stage where there was actually a platform with a rope you could pull that would lift a band up it through the stage up into the WSM thing.
Really?
Yeah.
What was that, 84, 85?
Yeah, that was when we were in Nashville.
Wow.
We met some Ronnie Millsap.
Yeah. Excellent.
I think he helped us write our BMI agreement and stuff like that, you know.
He's so cool.
And Fair and Young, Johnny Paycheck. Oh, God, Johnny Paycheck. But he was a handful. He was blasted drunk at a bar, and they were trying to get him off the stage. That wasn't too long after that he shot that guy
Ooh.
and ended up going to jail.
No.
This podcast is sponsored by our friends at Electric Kitsch, located at 2106 Kosciuszko Avenue in Bay City, Michigan. They offer new and used records, including local to Michigan original vinyl and CDs, as well as clothing, electronic equipment, funky household items, music gear, and stringed instrument repair. You can find them on the web or call 989-402-1411.
So when were you at Henry Weck's place?
86.
Oh, okay. That was before I moved to Ann Arbor.
86 or 87. Yep.
Now, what did you do with Henry Weck? Fred, you said
Well,
you
we
did
recorded
some
the
albums.
Trinidad Tripoli Steel Band album. We recorded Steve Nardella album. We recorded Jamie James.
King Bees.
Yep.
We did gigs with those guys.
Yep.
Yep.
And I don't know, a couple other ones.
That was a Schoolhouse Studios.
Yeah.
For School Kids Records.
Right.
All right. Yeah.
But this was in the 90s.
Yeah. I think it was 89 we did the King Bees at Backstreets in Bay City.
Oh, really? They were up there?
And Cub Coda. We brought him in there and opened up for him too.
I remember him coming to town. I was in high school at the time.
Well, Cub Coda and Henry Weck were...
Henry was a good engineer. He did all the Blackfoot's recordings on that time.
Right. Wasn't there an engineer in there called Pete?
Yeah. I don't remember
I can't
last
remember
name,
his
though.
last name. but-
Yeah. I know a lot of Pete's, that's why.
Yeah.
Is Henry's studio still in operation?
No.
No, he's closed down.
He moved to Mobile, Alabama,
Where was that studio at, Fred?
on Delhi Road,
Ann Arbor.
way out in the country.
Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
It was an old school.
It was an old schoolhouse.
Yep.
Okay.
That was a beautiful studio.
Unreal. I wonder who got that now, or where anything about.
Well, it's now a private house.
that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of history with that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he had a lot of big names go through that studio.
Yeah. Yeah, I never heard of Blackfoot until I moved to Ann Arbor.
Henry Weck took me into his, he had a little museum set up there at the schoolhouse. He had a whole bunch of Dan Electro guitars and all of his outfits that he wore doing
He must have
concerts
taken
with
that out when
And he
we
had
were
a big
there.
old leather suit that he wore, bibs, that was laced down the side so you could see the skin on his legs going all the way down. And he had a pair of boots with platforms on them about that tall.
That's just not his image.
And I said, Henry, how do you play drums in that thing? And he, watch this, and he picked up the bottom of the damn boot, pushed a button, and the platform slid right off.
Oh my lord.
So he would get behind a drum, slide the back platforms off, and then play drums.
One of them roller skate shoes that got reinvented for a platform shoe. There you hit the button.
Well, Brownsville was really popular in the early 70s when you saw those platform shoes.
Yeah, they played at Bay City Central High School.
I can remember seeing pictures of Michael Lutz, with big platforms on.
Oh, yeah.
They
A lot
had
of people had them back then.
Yeah,
I think he's still in Ann Arbor.
I think they've reformed Brownsville. He's probably the only original member, I'm sure.
I think he is.
Well, they reformed a few years back with Henry as the drummer.
Oh, really?
But that fizzled out pretty quick. I think they did a short tour, but not with Cub, though. I don't think Cub was in it.
No, Cub has passed quite a few years ago.
He's been gone a while.
He was still really effective, though. I saw him.
He was real good. He was
yeah,
They put out a CD by him that School Kids did.
Yeah,
A couple of them.
There's quite a few things he did as a
I thought
solo.
he did too. I remember the Abba Gabba Dabba Dabba one.
That's right.
And then I thought there was another one I got from Press From You. We talked about in the School Kids episode. Oh, then he must have been something he was tied into that I got mixed up.
Because he did another one with Hound Dog Taylor's band on some blues label.
Empire Blind Pig or something there.
I think he did a couple of gigs with the Whiz Kids opening up for him, too. Back in the day, if you remember the Whiz Kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was just two of them. Drummer and guitar player.
Yeah, Cub had, he was quite a character. He had Cub Power buttons all over his leather jacket.
I remember
No round glasses.
cracking open Goldmine magazines through the 90s. He was in damn near every one of them.
Oh, he was an encyclopedia of rock and roll.
Yeah, really a great writer. I loved his column, Vinyl Junkie, I think it was called.
That was it.
Yeah, really, he really was a champion for some of the early rock and roll guys. One guy in particular, Link Ray.
Yeah.
He just championed Link Ray.
Link Ray was pretty cool.
Oh man, I guess the guy that really kind of, I guess you could say, the father of the the power chord.
Yeah.
Rumble.
Lazy Lester saw him at the this little festival in New Orleans a few years before he passed, Link Ray. And he was telling me, he said, that's the loudest guitar I've ever heard in my life. And he was in, Link Ray was, I think, in the 80s.
That was a Rumble, right? When his
I can concur to that because I saw him, the only time I saw Link Ray live was at a rockabilly festival in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It was just so much fun to see this thing. And we saw Link Ray, and he was so loud, it reminded me of the Spinal Tap movie where they were saying he had to turn the amp up to 11. I mean, it was ear-splitting. But it was fun to see him.
He was definitely a groundbreaking guitar player.
Oh, yeah.
Jesse Ed Davis was another one.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know who he is, but I do.
Native American fellas.
Sure.
Both of them.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was on a lot. He played on quite a few of John Lennon's
Taj Mahal,
record.
George Harrison.
Right. Was in Taj Mahal's band, and then played on quite a few of the records
Jackson
by the Beatles when they went solo.
Yep, Jackson Brown, all his stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of his stuff, anyways.
So you guys recorded the second record that got shelved. What happened with the Burdons from there?
Recording wise,
Anything?
I think we did a live CD after that.
I know the live CD came out in the late 90s. That was the Brown. What was it called?
It was down in the cellar, wasn't it?
It was Penny Arcade.
Penny Arcade. There
That's
we
it.
are.
Yep.
Yeah, that hall is still down there, but nobody uses it for anything.
Where's that at?
It's right up on Midland Street, about a block away from the West Town.
What's it called?
It's not called anything. There's a marijuana shop now.
Oh,
Oh, there we go.
Gee, imagine that.
Yeah, gee.
since there's one on every other corner.
Right.
Yeah, they're putting them on every corner. Where the hell were they at when we were young?
I remember when that came out because I was playing River Rock around then, or I was doing something, and you guys handed me a copy, and it was pretty. That's a cool live record.
Yeah,
That introduced the new era with the new keyboard player.
yeah. Those are the good old days.
A couple of weeks ago, I found a CD with David Davenport on it down in Ohio.
He's got 3 or 4 of them out. He lives in Normal, Illinois.
Yeah, okay.
He's got 3 or 4 of them.
It's a female singer,
Okay.
kind of a rhythm and blues.
He's got one called The Big Machine that it's all his songs that he wrote on there with some good players from down there on. So it's a really good CD. Pretty good. Yep. We actually had him up for a show a couple of years back before the COVID hit. We did a gig, and we actually had a rehearsal about 3 weeks ago. And then this Delta variant came out, and Paul said, nope, I'm not playing. And Paul does not want to leave his house. And I don't blame him. He's taking care of his 92-year-old stepfather, or excuse me, his 92-year father-in-law, right across the street from where we're at.
Oh.
Over here. And that's the guy, Jim Eager's his name. He used to put shows on up in Tawas all the time. He had 180 acres up there.
You said right across the street from here?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah,
Over here.
Alan was saying something about that on the way in. I don't know. Who's over there?
Greenhouse across the street.
Right across the street.
Yeah, 820.
He used to put on shows.
Up in Tawas, yeah.
Now that's Paul's wife's father, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jim Eager, yeah. Really, really nice guy. He's an unbeatable human being.
We might have to take a walk across the street for get him over
He's
here
got a
for
good
an
history.
episode.
Well, he's in pretty rough shape right
Is
now.
he? Okay.
Jim Davenport's still around, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim lives near me.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's
I think I saw him at Scotty's Sandbar.
He works for
one
Bay
time.
City Public Schools.
Oh.
Yep. I think he's a teacher's aide or something like that, no?
Well, I should mention that the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame at the Historical Museum of Bay County has a Burdons exhibit. We have the key that Sullivan presented to the Burdons, and we have a glassed-in case where it's safely displayed. We also have the guitar that the Detroit police managed to recover from the carjacking incident back in the 80s, and So we're real excited about that. You know, we want.
The only thing we got back was that guitar and a pair of Beatle boots.
And I might also mention that Zach Newmeyer, the guy who did the Smelly Little Town Madonna movie that's coming to town, he has got a hold of the Madonna key that Mayor Mike Buddha engraved. And this was after Sullivan had left the mayorship and Buddha became the mayor. And so he got a hold of one of the keys to Bay City, and he engraved Madonna's name on it. And he used to keep it in his desk as kind of like a joke that he had Madonna's key. But do you remember Mickey Spillane in The Doll?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Miller Lite commercials?
Very well.
She came to town, and Buddha gave that key that had Madonna's name engraved on it to Lee Meredith, the doll. And there's a great picture of her with Buddha. I mean, if you remember the doll, she was a big woman with, you know.
When I worked at Bay Harbor Marina, Mickey Spillane used to keep his yacht there.
Really?
And the two of them were always on the deck of it sunning themselves.
Wow. Well, yeah. You know, the doll was pretty hot stuff, you know.
She was a doll.
She had a display in Playboy magazine herself. But anyways, Lee Meredith is kind of featured in the film briefly, but she's in ill health. But somehow she gave the key to Zach so he could film it, take a picture of it. And he was talking about possibly giving it to us at the museum if it was okay with Lee Meredith.
Oh, wow.
That we could actually not only have the Burdons key, but have the other key.
That's excellent.
So we'll see about that.
How many local bands or artists in our scene have keys to the city? Do you know?
The Burdons were, you know, unfortunately, the records are kind of skimpy. But from all I looked into, it seemed to me the Burdons were the first Michigan rock and roll band to receive a key to the city. And I don't know if there's been another one, actually.
I don't know about rock bands, but they did give the keys out to certain people before that.
Oh, yeah, the keys.
I think there was a golfer or something like that.
I was just wondering,
They gave
in the arts, though.
They
like
gave,
music.
they gave
In
one.
the arts, though, I don't.
They used to give one each year to Miss Bay County. They gave one each year to the winner of the boat races in Bay City. They would give them, you know, to all kinds of things. You know, the Polish dance troupe and, so that this whole thing with Madonna and Sullivan was ridiculous when you look at the history of the key. You know, he's painting this picture that it's this wonderful honor. I mean, they were handing him out like candy, but it's still, they weren't giving him to rock and roll bands.
Right.
And so the fact that the Burdons got that first key is pretty cool.
That is cool.
And we've got it at the museum.
Madonna key and an original nude picture of her up there. You're going to outdo the Bay City Times.
Well, yeah, those Madonna pictures, nude pictures, are all over the internet. You don't have to look very hard for those.
That's cool, though. I wondered if there was more musicians or any art thing that got more keys to the city, but I figured you guys would have the backstory on that. I didn't know.
Yeah, it's shameful. In fact, I couldn't believe it. When I went in and I was, working on this story, and I learned from, Charlie Brunner was the mayor at this time, and he said, yeah, there's a book in the county clerk's office. Or the city clerk's office. And so I'm envisioning, this is big leather bound thing, it's the names of everybody. And I went in there and it's a spiral notebook. And they didn't even, you'd think if you were keeping track of recipients of the key that you would take a ruler and draw straight lines for the columns. It was ridiculous.
It was random, very random.
They had no information, no dates.
Oh,
no reason why somebody got the key. It was just really haphazard.
I'm surprised the question mark and the Mysterians didn't get a key.
Well, if they did, it was not. It was not written down.
I think they just got one from Saginaw.
Yeah,
Recently.
Well, yeah, actually, more members of the band were from Saginaw than
Right.
Bay City.
Yeah.
But they were honored in Bay City, and then, of course, they are the official rock and roll song of Bay City. That's kind of a nice thing.
What about the Bay City Rollers? I know they're not from here, but
I understand they got a key, but there was no picture of it and no record of it.
Oh, wow. Is there
And
anybody
even-
left for of
Well,
the
even
contact?
the funny thing was, when Sullivan was talking about Madonna, he had mentioned that he had presented the key to a nun from St. Stanislaus, and that after presenting the key to a nun from St. Stanislaus, he could not in good conscience give a key to Madonna after posing nude. Well, I went to look in the record, and Sullivan never even bothered writing down the sister's name. It was not in the record. So, I mean, hey, the hypocrisy. You're making this big deal, and you can't even take time to
book is
to
worth.
take 30 seconds to write somebody's name down. They got the key to the city.
I want to see
Jeez.
that book now, because that is just the craziest book of knowledge for a city. I mean, it's almost an archive piece now itself.
Well,
now that you said that.
and then the other thing, I'm trying to think the name. Who is the city manager now?
Dana Muscat.
Dana Muscat.
Yeah.
Okay, she was the head of that department, and they had done that move after the fire at City Hall, and so all the records got moved. And what I didn't do when I went there, when I was first writing the story about the Burdons, is I didn't take a picture of it. And so I was anxious to get another look at it, so I was after Dana Muscat, and she had apparently never looked at this thing before. And so when she saw what it looked like, she rewrote the book. All neatly done. Now, I knew this because I had seen the first one.
Yeah.
When she pulled it out, I knew she had rewritten it, and she presented it to me as this is the official record. It looked a lot nicer. It was still pretty skimpy. She didn't add anything to it. She just copied
Verbatim.
everything down in very neat writing, neat columns, and so on.
Did you say something to her when you were looking for it? Like, this should be a lot neater when I'd like to see it again.
No, I didn't call her on it. She was real nice. I didn't want to embarrass her, but I knew what she had done.
No way.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now there's two ledgers.
Well, no, I'm sure she destroyed the first one. There's only one ledger, the one that she wrote down.
Oh, man. Wow. So, Scott, you take us on a journey. You guys had Bob Charleboy joining on keyboards. What year?
95, I think.
Okay, and that's when the Brown album, the Arcade album, came out. What's the name of that record? The live one?
Penny Arcade?
Penny Arcade.
No,
yeah.
that was after that.
That was after that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
Dave Davenport's on that record.
Oh, okay. Have you released anything since then?
No.
Okay. But that, have you had any lineup changes at all?
Nope.
No? You guys still plug away here and there, though?
Not too often.
Not too often?
The COVID's pretty much got everything.
Well, recently, yeah. But, I mean, you guys are still the Burdons when they're called upon.
Probably about a half a dozen songs that I've recorded, original songs, with Paul Schultz and Jim Davenport
Okay.
that have never been released.
You told me you had an archive of some stuff. That's why I was going to get around
I
to
got
it.
archives of all kinds of crap.
Okay. Well, that's great. So there's more music in the can
Yeah.
for Burdons fans. But that record did do well for the Midwest, for you guys,
For us, it did, yeah.
for Michigan, indeed.
Yeah.
That would be cool to hear something down the line here. Yeah.
We got us quite
Well,
a few
you guys-
gigs on Mackinac Island.
Yeah, the original four played at that reunion. That would have been just before COVID, right? Seemed to me it was in
Yes.
February.
Yeah.
Because I presented you guys
Yes.
with the
Yep.
inductee certificates.
Yes, that was at
Dave was
Sandbar.
there.
Dave was there. Yeah.
The reunion of the Burdons, the last time you played together then as the original foursome.
Yep, and that can happen again if we get.
Well-
it's pretty much up to Paul.
Well, right. If COVID ever gets under control, but I don't know. It just that there seems to be a lot of opposition of vaccination, and
There's
I don't know.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of politics.
Oh, I know.
We're coming into the end of the month here, and this end of the September and October is going to be the they've said for the last 2 months that that's going to be the calling card for the year. So everybody's in the middle right now. Which way are we going with this?
Yeah.
I had it. I'm vaccinated, so I'm not worried.
Well, I know, but I mean I'm talking about like the way we were going up with the new variant. Yep. Kids are back in school. Jobs are coming out again because there's no more free money coming from the government. Yep. Lots of options going on right now. So there's a lot to be talking about here coming up.
Well, it's going to be this fall and winter is going to be a telling time.
It will be.
Yeah, it sure will be. Yeah,
that's when everything's going to come out in the wash by next spring.
Yeah, a little scary to think about, what might happen this winter.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a reunion of you guys at the dock or whatever that was called.
Dockside?
Oh, the Kingfish.
Yeah, the Kingfish. It was you guys and Larry McRae, or the McRae brothers.
Yeah.
That was fun.
We know the McRae brothers for many years.
That was a packed night.
A lot of times we would play in Detroit. Down there, Larry'd be playing down there, and we'd meet at a hotel and party after the gigs.
Excellent. Had your friends down there. Let's get together tonight. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We had a lot of fun. Those were good times. Yeah.
So take us into your journey for the last few years with Scotty Sandbar. What year did you open it? What brought you around to getting that place? And tell us a little bit about it.
So we've been open for 6 years with a liquor license. I've had it for 7.5 years.
Okay.
I bought the place because, as my professional business is a marine contracting company. I have a couple barges with cranes on them, tugboats, and I did a lot of work for the railroad in this area, a lot of work on the bridges in town. And I got into that in 1986, working for a private company. And then in 1993, I decided to go into business for myself. There was such a demand for it, and there was a vacuum. There was nobody doing it.
Right.
So I started renting equipment, and then I ended up buying the equipment after a couple of years. I was making some decent money. And I used to rent the riverfront property on Marquette behind Fletcher Oil. I did that for quite a few years, and the rent wasn't cheap, He knew what it was worth and stuff, Fred Fletcher was a wonderful man. He was a good friend of mine. And the Sandbar had been put up for auction. It had been sitting empty for 6 years. And nobody bid it on it. And well, I had a real estate agent lady call me up and said, you could probably throw a pretty good low offer bid and they might take it. They're hard up to get rid of it. And when I did the math work found out that it was actually cheaper for me to make a payment on the place if I could get it than it was for paying the rent. It was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So they had sold it to a different guy from a trucking company. He wanted to put a campground in there. And the building was wiped out. The windows were broken, the roof was caved in. And this guy decided he was going to put a campground in there and started renovating the property, digging the riverfront to put a sandy beach in and stuff. I don't know, who's just swimming around? I don't know. Wow. DNR stopped him. And he got mad and threw his hands up in the air and backed out of the purchase agreement. So they called me up, and that was the owners of the Shipwreck Bar back then.
You said 7 years ago?
Yeah. The owners of the Shipwreck, the Craig family, they called me up and said, we want to take your offer. I had to pay some back taxes, but I ended up buying it. Well, at that point in time, I kept working on the river and taking my marine construction business around the Saginaw Bay and working, and I put a lot of money away to renovate the bar. Mm-hmm. And so I started to put new windows in it, new roof, had to put a gas line, a water line, electrical to it. I mean, I put a ton of money in it. I had to redo the bathrooms. Everything was out of code. And so I started renting it out as a hall. And we actually had quite a few people actually get married in the building, which is opposite because they were getting divorced. When it was a bar before that.
It's a heaven and hell building.
Yeah,
That's right.
So anyways, I got a phone call from a guy named Randy Weiss, who owned a car wash over on Euclid, and he was half owner of the old Chinese restaurant, the House of Ing, which was Bertrand's before that.
Right.
And he said, the old Chinese guy owes me a big pile of money for back taxes, and he's sitting on a liquor license. I can make him sell it to you. And I said, well, might be all right, because I've been looking all over. I tried buying 4 or 5 of them, and the state don't put them out no more. They don't put no new liquor licenses out. Very seldom do they, under special circumstances. They'll do temporary ones at that time anyway. So I got a hold of the old guy, and he wanted a lot of money for it, you know. Money I really didn't have, so I had to go take out a loan, and I bought the liquor license. The reason I wanted it is because it was a Class A license. I can set up a couple stations outside and sell alcohol. Plus, I can sell alcohol to the boats going by.
Oh,
I
yeah.
got a takeout license. And so we got it, and we opened up. That was about 6.5 years ago. And we've been keeping bands working as much as possible.
Now, your wife, Jill, kind of runs the bar
She
pretty
helps
much?
me manage the place, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. While I was doing all the tugboat work on down the river, she was taking care of that place.
Mm-hmm.
We're 50-50 operators, aren't we?
Yeah, well, that sounds like you got a pretty good way of doing things. Yeah. And you've got other family working at the bar, too, right?
Well, my grandson works there right now.
Yeah. So
I got a niece that bartends in there, too.
Yeah, so it always helps to have family in a bar situation, from what I understand, anyway.
What really helps is having cameras all over the place.
Well, it is a great spot, though. I mean, I know Jim McCarty, I think when he played, he was probably pretty impressed with the stage. And
he will be back October 9th.
Oh, that's awesome.
Excellent.
Back, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you've had Thornetta through there, right?
Yeah.
Because you have Brett Lucas coming this December.
December 4th, I do believe.
With me. And
with you, yeah.
I believe that he told me, he says, I've played there. I love that room. So.
Yeah, we did a couple gigs with him before. Yeah. Betty Levette.
Yeah.
Me and Rhett Yoakum did a couple gigs with Dave, the drummer there, with Thornetta.
Okay.
He was also on John Krogman's record.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He did a big part on John Krogman's record.
Right.
He had
Actually, that was Betty Levette's band.
Right.
Yeah. Sling that mud.
They had Stuart Frankie got part of that, too. Yeah. That was huge for John, that last record.
That's a great record, though. Yeah. It's a really good record. Yeah. John's a good guy.
I wanted to tell you, though, man, you brought in so many great bands through Sandbar in the last 6 years alone. And you got more coming. Yeah. And your business, I mean, you've employed Steve McRae with your business. You've helped out people along the way.
Operator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you've done so much for the community, for the arts community.
We try to.
Oh, it's you, my friend. Thank you for all you've done.
Thank you, Scott, for all you've done.
Oh man, I'll tell you right now that I tell you this every time I see you.
I feel humbled to be in a room with you guys right now.
We're just thankful you're here, man.
Cool
for sure.
Thank you for all you've done for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, Scotty Sandbar, that's a very cool place.
Pretty awesome too.
Yeah.
Well, so we got to treasure our friends around here, and Michigan's one hell of a state for some music.
Sure is.
Sure is.
Well, let's look forward to the archives, the Burdons archives, at some point before it's too late.
Yep.
And
I would love to, once we get this COVID thing settled down a little bit here, we'll get her back going again.
Well, let's get
that'd be great.
We'll get the word out. Maybe you guys can come back in and get some of the other cats in here doing some talking too. You know,
it'd be fun. Right. Get straighten out some of the myths I gave you.
Well, I'll tell you what. I want to hear. I want to hear the swear words start flying and the fingers start pointing. Let's see how it goes. No,
actually, we have never ever had an argument as a band over music. Never, not one. And it's always been a equal thing amongst the band. We've always got together when we've written the stuff. We've always put forth ideas, and we always take the best idea. Nobody gets offended, and that's rare in bands.
Sure is.
Because some people will get so offended over something in a band, you know. A lot of times bands break up, you know, because of that stuff, you know.
I noticed on the record it says all songs by the Burdons.
Yeah, yep. A lot of them we created right out of nowhere. Just got a feeling and ran with it.
Well, just giving band credit, I think, alleviates a lot of, hard feelings sometimes. That's a good way to do it.
Having the Sandbar, I've seen bands that have come in there and they're good players and stuff like that. But you could, if there's any animosity between the members on the stage, it comes right out the speakers. It does. It does. And the audience picks up on it. And you can tell if a band's having a good time when they're playing and if they're not.
Right. Oh, yeah. For sure.
You know what I'm saying? If they're having a good time, then everybody has a good time. But if they're not, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Kind of like politics. No, I'm not going to say that. Politics is way worse.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you, Scotty, for what you've done.
Thank you very much.
And we appreciate having you on our show.
No problem.
This is the MMHP and the 989, and we're going to sign off for this episode. And hope you guys around the state and around the universe get to check in on eBay, because there's Burdons records on there. There's Burdons records in all the used stores. There might be even some original copies floating around Scotty Sandbar. You never know where you're going to find it. Please check out the Burdons online and remember the history of Michigan here. And we will talk to you guys soon.
The MMHP is hosted on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and our own Libsyn podcast site. You can also search MMHP 989 on Facebook for up-to-the-minute information, as well as both Dr. J and Sir Fred's album picks of the week, posted every weekend. You can connect with Scott on the web at scottbakermusic.com, Dr. J at michiganrockandrolllegends.com, Sir Fred at fredrife.com, and the Electric Kitch at electrickitch.com.
This podcast wouldn't be here without special help from Studio 163's Alan Garcia, our podcast videographer and wingman, Mr. Mike Beatty, MMHP tagline specialist, Mr. Eddie Switek, and of course, Gary Johnson, Fred Rife, the Electric Kitch, and all of our special guests, and especially you listeners. We want to thank you.
You've been listening to the MMHP and the 989. From all of us at the podcast, we want to thank you for tuning in.